Hello and welcome to my very first video on this brand new channel called Waking Earth. My name is Ian Parks and our focus here is going to be bringing you lots of interesting knowledge and perspectives I've gained through studying spirituality for the last 20 years. These videos will provide many tools of awareness to assist us with humanity's spiritual circumstances here on this planet, what is holding us back and how we can move forward to a much more positive future, both personally and collectively, than the one we have currently been stuck in, or more accurately, kept in intentionally. I didn't want to create simply another conspiracy channel where we endlessly examine countless nefarious agendas being covertly played out on this planet, as although that kind of education is beneficial when first awakening, it's very easy to get caught up in the cycle of fighting against the system. And many of these conspiracy channels and popular researchers who present all this well-researched and quite detailed information seem to not offer any real-world solutions as to what we actually do about it. You could spend your entire life going down the rabbit hole and learning all about these endless conspiracy theories, which I myself have certainly done, but there does reach a point where you have to simply accept that some of these things are actually happening and decide to make a conscious, informed decision to not let it define who you are and tie down your energy, as that will only serve to prevent you from moving forward. This channel will be a step in a new positive direction in which we will be covering some incredibly amazing information about who we are, what we are capable of, the situation we currently find ourselves in, who is preventing us from moving forward, and how do we actually move forward. We will be covering creation mechanics on both a personal and macro level to give ourselves a re-education of the spiritual side of our true nature, and from this empowered space create a bird's eye perspective on some of the challenges we currently face, instead of going too far into the negative details. It is certainly a positive move to learn the core concepts of what has been happening here, but we will be going a step beyond the normal negative details and viewing it from a positive space of education and empowerment to allow us the tools to both handle how we both perceive and deal with these situations in the best way possible. I hope that together we can create a community of highly educated and highly positive people who understand both their personal and collective power to move humanity out of the dark and into a much more positive future. In order to do this, we need to define what that future is going to be, instead of sitting back and letting others who do not have our best interests in mind to define it for us. Humanity is the greatest force on this planet, and we have sat back and allowed others to control us and enslave us for far too long. And if we want to move forward, we must be aware of the larger context of what has been occurring here and join together as the incredible human beings that we have forgotten we are and choose our new future starting now. Raising the frequency of consciousness on this planet is how we are going to move forward as a race, and we can do this together by raising the frequency of both our conversations and the perspectives on how we view some of the things that are occurring. I very much hope to spark some high frequency discussion that we can all share in and create a community shield of awakened, like-minded people who, through our frequency and interaction, will become a catalyst for change that others can easily join and take part in and pick up the group shield frequencies, which in turn will allow those people to start running those frequencies themselves. It's probably a good idea then to first begin with our first topic of how shields and group consciousness works. So this first presentation is called Shield and Group Consciousness. As human beings, we have a 15-dimensional light body structure that is a highly complex multidimensional template based on electromagnetic domains, light and sound fields, Merkaba fields, chakras, and many other structures, including something called shields. You can think of a shield as a flat, invisible disc that horizontally intersects your body. Here we have what is called a CatharaGrid manifestation template, which is the original template on which Manifest Creation is built. You may have seen variations on this template which contain either 10 or 11 spheres and is sometimes referred to as the Tree of Life. However, you will notice that this version has 12 spheres and is the original Eternal Life template for Manifest Creation. Anytime you see one of these grids that does not contain 12 spheres, it is a fallen template based on Metatronic black hole mechanics. From my perspective, that is not a good thing. This template exists as the original template behind all matter and exists inside every atom, every compound, every person, every planet, every solar system, every galaxy and every universe, going all the way up to God Source Consciousness Field. There are 12 spheres called Cathara centers which each hold the core mathematical and geometrical Partakai phasing programs upon which the shields of the manifestation template organize themselves. Manifest creation takes place within a structure called a 15-dimensional time matrix, of which the first 12 dimensions are manifest. The last 3 dimensions are not shown on a Cathara grid as they are primal light and sound fields that surround this manifest structure. You can see that a Cathara grid is separated into 4 density levels, and we live in density 1, which is dimensions 1, 2, 3 down the bottom here. Each density creates a flat disk called a shield, which is a scalar shield, which are 3-dimensional scalar wave grids that hold the blueprint for manifestation as set by the mathematical encoding held within the Cathara centers of the manifestation template. Each of the 4 density shields appear like this, with each one forming a rotating disk of scalar waves that emanate out on a horizontal plane from the chakra centers shown. Our physical body is part of dimension 2 in density 1, which is not only our body, but dimension 2, D2, is also our entire physical matter hologram that we walk around in. So this diagram shows how the shields would look over this dimension 2 level of the physical body. Every time you see a shield, it implies a sphere around it, and each of the density shields are progressively larger in size, meaning we are walking around inside numerous concentric light body spheres. However, this diagram is simply showing the density 1 shield, which is not to scale and simply shows a representation of how it would look. So instead of showing all the density shields and their associated electromagnetic domain light body spheres, the way I visualize and simplify the concept is by simply showing the density 4 shield just below our feet, which is known as the Maharic shield. From now on, just as a way of representing this concept, I will use this shield simply as a way for you to more easily understand how the process works. However, be aware this process is occurring for all of the density shields simultaneously. Okay, here we have 2 people who have never met. Each person has their own individual shield, which, if you remember, also forms a sphere around them. When 2 people meet and begin communicating together, they automatically form a group shield, which also forms the group electromagnetic domain light body sphere, which in simple terms could be referred to as a group consciousness field. The 2 people's personal shields are still there, only now a new shield has formed to encompass the 2. These shields form regardless of distance, so a person in the UK could be talking to someone in Australia on the telephone, or anywhere in the world through the internet, and this group shield will form, which will connect all the different levels of those 2 people's multi-dimensional anatomies together to allow communication to occur. What generally tends to happen is people's higher density shields will connect first, which is why we sometimes think of someone out of the blue, then a few seconds later they contact you on the telephone or through the internet. Because people's higher selves always connect first, the reality of this connection is sometimes passed down and sensed by our density 1 selves, which is the bodies that we walk around in down here, before those people's physical density 1 shields connect, sometimes giving us the heads up before the meeting in density 1 here actually takes place. Once this group shield is formed, which can simply be 2 people, a group of people, or an entire race of people, communication can begin to occur. Any person belonging to that group shield will add their energy, their frequency, their emotions, their beliefs, their intent, their modes of behaviour, and their encryption into the group shield, allowing any other member of that group shield to pick up on and link in with that encryption of consciousness in that moment. The longer you remain in a particular shield, the stronger you will adopt the encryptions of that shield into your own conscious personality and identity. If you were to visit a high school, you will notice that the children will automatically arrange themselves into group shields of like-minded interests and beliefs, such as you may have a group of all the popular children hanging out together, all the maths geeks forming their own group. Maybe that school has some children who associate with Gothic culture who will form their own group, etc., etc. Each group will have its own traits, behaviours, language, culture, interests and modes of interaction. And these shields will overlap, meaning a person can belong to multiple shields at the same time. You will usually find that children will dip in and out of these group shields as they form their own identity over time. And their identity will become based on elements of numerous different shield collectives over time. This means that a building of a person's identity is highly influenced by the people and the shields they associate with throughout their life. These shields are effectively group consciousness collectives. If you have a particular rough council estate where crime is commonplace, then anyone belonging to that particular group shield is more tilted towards adopting or falling into those same behaviour patterns, although free will can always override collective shield consciousness programs that guide that shield's global behaviour patterns. You could be driving in your car down the motorway or the freeway and suddenly find yourself driving through a particular area which could be a quite poor, run-down, poverty-stricken town or city. Now I'm sure most people have suddenly felt like they've just driven into a bubble where the energy suddenly changes and you can pick up on either negative or positive shield encryptions that exist in that area. If this area contains a lot of negative energy, then just imagine what would happen if you were unfortunate enough to live there. Over time, this negative feeling would become the foundation of your own consciousness, and in a lot of cases you will become an unconscious carrier and transmitter of this feeling or encryption. So the place where you live is very important in defining the kind of person you wish to be, or more accurately, the kind of energies you wish to be a part of. If you are at a large sporting event such as a football match, you will be able to feel the excitement and the emotion of the crowd, as all the people there will be creating one giant shield which everybody is adding their emotion into, thus creating a highly charged energetic shield that everyone else has the free will to tap into and become a part of. An old building can also contain remnants of shields of the people who used to live there before, which is why some people can sometimes feel a positive or negative impression when entering an old place. The consciousness encryption of all those that have been there before become encrypted into the actual multidimensional matter base of that location, which then automatically enters back into the shield of the person or people visiting that place in that now moment. The behaviour patterns that exist within a group consciousness shield collective can be thought of as very powerful programs that encourage members of that shield to adopt in their day-to-day behavior. A lot of the people who are not yet awakened simply fall into line and adopt these very powerful behavioral shield consciousness programs, and obviously they are completely unaware that their behaviors are being guided by these collective programs. A person's beliefs and expectations will actually literally create their own reality, which is one of the biggest secrets kept from humanity. The mainstream media, who in essence is simply a facade for the secret societies and fallen angelic bloodlines that have externally positioned themselves as our rulers, are well aware of humanity's manifestation abilities, and for quite some time they have manipulated humanity into creating the reality they wish to experience by using our own co-creative powers against us. This is done by installing very powerful beliefs and false information into our collective consciousness, which we then share amongst ourselves via our shields, which we then manifest into physical reality. Some of these installed programs are so powerful that a lot of unawakened people who still believe the mainstream media will outright reject any information which doesn't fit the program or model of reality they have been conditioned to believe. For instance, some people can look up at a sky filled with chemtrails and they literally cannot see them, as they have a perceptual block installed that does not allow this information to be accepted into their personal schema model of the world they have been conditioned to believe in 100%. In psychology, this concept is known as cognitive dissonance and is a serious hurdle for a person's consciousness to overcome if they are wanting to break free from these false programs and become so-called awakened. In the same way that a huge shield is created at a sporting event, there is a much more cleverly designed and deeply embedded shield that is expertly managed and controlled by the mainstream media, the government, the sciences and education and all walks of officialdom. All of these pillars of our society are actually all under the control of fallen angelic bloodlines who make ongoing incredible efforts to manipulate the information that exists within this control shield. Every single person who watches the mainstream media and believes what is being stated as truth will add their own personal belief and encryption to this larger control shield. If you think of every single person as their own individual quantum of energy, then if they can successfully plant an idea into this control shield and encourage its belief, then each individual person who buys into that belief will add their own quantum of energy into supporting this particular consciousness shield program. Thus, any idea existing within this control shield, which at this moment in time is mostly unawakened people, can be measured as a quantum of energy in its own right. The more people that buy into a particular belief, the stronger its quantum becomes, thus the stronger its influence becomes in the collective consciousness. Those who are not yet able to use their own critical thinking processes will simply adopt these very powerful consciousness shield programs as though these ideas were their own. When you have a powerful belief supported by everybody else's quantum, then the path of least resistance becomes the adoption of this belief. Thus, it becomes the general consensus in the collective consciousness of that control shield. Anyone questioning this general consensus may find themselves the source of ridicule or attack, as these programs will immediately kick into activation and encourage those speaking against it to fall into line and encourage them to adopt the consensus belief. This consensus is very skillfully programmed into the collective consciousness in order to control humanity, limit our development, and further the agendas of the fallen angelic bloodlines that have positioned themselves as our controllers. What they attempt to do is to seed these ideas into our collective consciousness at our subconscious level. Many psychologists have determined that around 95% of all our conscious waking thoughts originate from our subconscious mind. Thus, if you can install a belief into the subconscious mind, then this will very strongly guide a person's perception of the world, as in some cases it will literally create a mental filter, so they will only be able to see their own belief, which in reality is not their own belief at all, but a belief that has been given to them for the purposes of their own control. Being able to question your own thoughts is a skill that is desperately needed to be developed in wider humanity, as critical thinking of what you see and experience is your own internal mechanism to define your own beliefs and conclusions, instead of just following the herd, which in most cases is a control mechanism existing within our collective consciousness. I will be making a video soon about fallen angelics, who they are, what they want, and the energetic principles they adhere to. One of the topics I will discuss in one of my upcoming videos is how they use the low vibration of fear through the media to both install these programs, keep us away from higher frequencies of consciousness, which is where all the good stuff lies, and keeping us locked in the fear program, and also how they literally feed like vampires off our fear energy, which they call loosh. The control of humanity is only possible through the control of our collective consciousness. So the best way to disable their control shield is through a magical function that's built into every single television, which is called the off button. Through the pressing of this simple button, you can begin to disable their entire global control of humanity, as they need us and our quantum to trick us into co-creating our own enslavement and the forwarding of their own agendas. Without us, they cannot do it. Okay, so that's the end of my first video, which I hope you enjoyed, and I certainly hope you learned even just one thing you didn't know before. The knowledge of how these things work is very important to know on both a personal level and in knowing the mechanisms by which you are controlled. Once you know these things, you are more equipped and able to protect yourself and the people you care about, and starting to move humanity in a more powerfully positive direction. As this is a brand new channel, I would very much appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this kind of information, and click the notification bell icon if you would like to be notified when the next video is ready. I'll try to do a new video every 2 to 3 days, as I have to find the time to do this in between my day job, but I feel this kind of information is very important to begin the process of the freeing of humanity. So I hope you enjoyed this first quick video, and I will see you next time.